Alright, first of all, thank you to everyone who voted and requested this video. It's one I've wanted to make for a while and I had a lot of fun testing out all of the different options. But the testing is now complete and I've narrowed down my list of 5 finalists for the best headphones, all for under $100. I've done the same already for true wireless earbuds, so check that out too if you're interested, it's linked down below. This video is going to take a similar format to the Headphones Awards from earlier this year. That was a look at the best headphones on the market, but most of us don't want to spend crazy prices on headphones, and it turns out there are plenty of excellent options found under the $100 price bracket. We all prioritise different features in our headphones, so I'll give you their ranking for various categories, as well as how they rank overall. As always, just because one pair of headphones is my personal winner, you may be looking for a pair that excel with a specific feature, perhaps comfort or noise cancelling. So you can use this video to see which option is best for your particular needs. Honestly, I think some of these entries will surprise you, but without further ado, here are the best over-ear headphones for under $100. Okay, first up is Sennheiser's HD350BT. Yes, they've been around for a while now, but quality stands the test of time. These have a simple, minimal design and a mostly plastic build, as you can expect from most of these entries. But honestly, the build quality is very good here. There's essentially no creaking in the headband at all, the hinges and headband extension feel solid, and the materials are actually really good quality. They also fold in for easier storage, although the ear cups don't rotate completely flat. These have thick, spongy ear cup padding, are reasonably light, and have a nicely balanced clamping force that feels secure but not too tight. Still, they rank in 5th for comfort. There's barely any padding in the headband for starters, though this was actually fine at least for a few hours. The problem is in how small and cramped the ear cups are. If you have medium to large sized ears, then you're probably going to have to wriggle them inside, and if they're not getting squashed, then they are at least getting quite warm. So that's the main downside. The controls are a bit unusual too, mainly because of this slider you need to flick to change tracks, but you also press it in for play, pause and answering calls, which does feel a bit strange. One key thing missing here is a 3.5mm port for a wired connection. These don't play audio via USB-C either, which means these are Bluetooth only, and if they run out of juice then you won't be able to keep listening with a cable. The standout missing features though are ANC and transparency. You'd have to go slightly above the $100 asking price and get Sennheiser's 450BTs for that. So they're relying on passive isolation to block out the noise in your environment, which in fairness they do quite effectively. Combined with a reasonable listening volume, your music should block out your surroundings. But I'll emphasise that the others in this list do come with ANC, and the 350s don't offer any situational awareness through transparency. It means the companion app, clean and intuitive as it is pretty feature light. The only reason you really need to visit this is to set your EQ of choice, perform any updates, and there's also a side tone feature which lets you control how much of your own voice you can hear on a call. These actually ranked in 5th for the mic quality, and I will give you a real world demo of this so you can hear it for yourself, but I'll save this till the end so you can hear all 5 headphones mics side by side, which I think makes it much easier to compare them. For specs we're looking at Bluetooth 5, a 30-hour battery life, and these are the only headphones here to offer the aptX codec, including aptX low latency. These also offer multi-point for a simultaneous connection between 2 devices. It is a bit slow to change over and didn't always alert me to notifications from both devices, so it doesn't work as well as some of the others, but it is still a feature these headphones have. But here's the reason they're on this list: the sound quality. In my opinion, these are still unbeaten for headphones in this price range. Even straight out of the box they're really well balanced, but it's the detail and instrument separation that sets these apart. Vocals are clear and prominent, highs are crisp without becoming too harsh, and the bass is controlled but punchy, and you can really crank up all of this with the 3-band EQ in the app to suit your listening style. It's a rich and full-bodied sound that punches well above the sub $100 price tag, even a few years on from launch. The sound leakage is kept very low, and I'm yet to hear a better sounding pair of headphones at this price, so do let me know if you think there's one I should check out that can beat these. Overall, Sennheiser's 350BT are really a no-frills, but nails the basics experience. Understandably, lots of people will be looking for more of those quality of life improving extra features, but I certainly can't complain about the sound quality here. Alright, next up is one more SonoFlow headphones, and these are perhaps the most stylish headphones in this list with this metallic grey finish and one more signature red accents. You actually get a really premium hardshell case with these, which is excellent. The build quality is once again very good, and these offer the softest padding I've felt in a pair of headphones so far, both on the headband and the ear cups. Those are thankfully a lot more spacious and the clamping force is well balanced. So comfort is definitely improved here. I could wear these for hours and yet these somehow still only came in fourth for that. These tactile controls are much more intuitive, with separate distinctive buttons including for the volume. The only unusual parts are volume down is skip forward, that's normally the opposite, and the multifunction button is situated at the front. I personally prefer the controls to all be at the back where they're easier to reach. We do have passive playback with a cable, which is great, but do bear in mind that the connection is the less common 2.5mm port as opposed to 3.5. A major step up from Sennheiser's entry is the addition of ANC and pass-through mode. Now the pass-through mode sadly has a loud hiss, which is a shame because pass-through would otherwise be really effective. But the ANC works pretty well. It's effective against low-end frequencies, but even attenuates voices and other mid to high frequencies as well. The only downside really is there's no customization for this or an adaptive mode. You just choose from ANC, pass-through or off. The mic quality for calls was also pretty good, especially with isolating the voice, but as I said I will demo this properly later. Perhaps the standout feature though is the insane 70-hour battery life. Now this does drop down to 50 hours with ANC, but that's still extremely impressive. There's a fast charge feature here as well, along with Bluetooth 5, multipoint, though like the 350BT this can be a bit slow, and there's even the high-res LDAC codec. So that obviously ties into the sound quality and allows these to offer higher quality streaming over Bluetooth. One more sound signature is overall warm and immersive, with an impressive depth of bass. The mid-range is pushed forwards, in particular the vocals, and then the highs are slightly rolled off. For the price, these definitely sound really good, but they still place in 5th, with the main reason being a lack of clarity in the mids compared to the others. As for the sound leakage, I did find this was the poorest with One More's headphones, and there's also an EQ shift that brings more bass with ANC mode, so those things slightly let the headphones down. You do get a lot of freedom to personalise the sound, including with a custom EQ, though I tend to steer clear of the One More app, which can be prone to connection issues, crashes, and other annoyances, like their soothing sounds feature which abruptly stops and then repeats on a 10-second cycle. Not very soothing. I noticed the SonoFlows are discounted right now, and One More even plants a tree for each item you purchase, which I'm very impressed with. So with these you can get great value for money, plus help the environment at the same time. Next is Edifier's WH-20NB+, which I think is the most underrated entry in this video. Now these have a very basic, minimal design, especially in black, and the build quality is much more in line with what you'd expect for the price. For instance, the headband does creak a little. So no premium build materials here, and they don't fold in for easier transport and storage. The ear cups just rotate flat. I noticed that it didn't need any extension on the headband at all, where I typically need a couple of notches, so these are on the larger side and may not suit small heads. These are still a comfortable pair of headphones though, they're fairly lightweight, there's thick padding all around, the ear cups are spacious, and the clamping force is again well balanced. The controls here are all easy to reach, they're very clicky, and there are raised grooves to help you distinguish them. I would say that separate buttons would have been a bit easier though. There's also no auxiliary port at all. If you want to use these for wired listening, then you need to use the USB-C port. Since this is also the charging port, it means your headphones immediately start charging when you plug in, and these do require battery for listening. So although you can use a cable when the battery is empty, I guess these technically don't support passive playback. These come with active noise cancellation, though again it's not one you can customize, but the performance was very impressive. At this price you won't find many that can beat these, and you can hear an obvious improvement versus the off mode. So it is the ANC quality and not simply passive noise isolation doing the work. The transparency mode though is not very amplified, although you can adjust it with 7 different levels in the app. One annoying thing though is that it doesn't preserve your listening mode when you power the headphones off, they default back to ANC mode every time. The mic performance with these was very impressive and earns the 2nd place for phone calls. Now for specs we have strangely 49 hours of battery life or 33 when using ANC. There's no multi-point here sadly, we just have Bluetooth 5.2 and the interesting combination of SBC and LDAC for codecs. So no AAC, which means iPhone users are stuck with the baseline codec. However, I had no connection or any significant sound quality issues when connected to an iPhone. The Edifier app offers a low latency game mode too, which you can activate on the headphones. There are also a couple of customization options, the ANC modes as we saw earlier, and 4 different equalizer options. There's no custom EQ though. I would actually recommend using the EQ, in particular the rock preset, which makes the treble a bit more crisp. However, these are actually really well balanced and offer a well refined mid-range and much more detailed treble than One More's entry. The clarity is significantly better, vocals sound cleaner, and the bass isn't as overpowering. These are narrowly beaten by Sennheiser's level of detail and separation, and if I had one complaint, it would be that there's a frequency peak in the mid-range which can make particularly female vocals border on being a bit harsh at high volumes. Still, I suspect these often get overlooked when it comes to sound quality, but for me they take a deserved second place. These headphones perform really well in three key areas: phone calls, ANC, and sound quality, so at well under $100 they're easily worth your consideration. One last thing to mention is to make sure you get the Plus model. The older WH-20NB look very similar, but have slightly lower specs and miss out on LDAC and the equalizer, so the newer Plus model is the one to go for. Just before the final two entries, I've got to say a quick word about today's unusual but definitely interesting sponsor, VisionUp. So this is described as an eye fitness app, and essentially it's designed to both combat existing eye problems, but also to preserve healthy eyes with calibrated exercises and trackable results. Most of us spend way too long looking at screens. I know in my job I can spend more than 10 hours in a single day doing that, and this does take a toll on your eyes. This app lets you choose from targeted training plans developed by professional ophthalmologists, for example dry eye relief, and as someone who's recently had laser eye surgery, that's one I'll be focusing on. I think this concept is really unique. The app interface is great, and I'm interested to stick with this and see what my progress is like in a few weeks' time. Anyway, all of the information about this is in the video description, so do check that out if you're interested. And now perhaps the least surprising entry, Sony's WH-CH720N, essentially their budget-friendly version of the flagship 1000X series. Once again, this is a very sleek and minimal design. I especially like the slim, shallow profile of the ear cups here. Like Edifier and One More, these don't fold in, but the ear cups do rotate flat and with a satisfying, slightly weighted movement too. You get a lot of extension with this headband, and there is an aux port for passive playback with a cable. The build quality is deceptively good. There's metal and no creaking in the headband, and yet these don't feel as premium as they perhaps deserve because of the weight. These are incredibly light at just 192 grams, and in turn this massively helps with comfort. The clamping force is on the lighter side too, there's plenty of headband padding, and the ear cups are very spacious, which also helps to stop your ears from warming up too much. So these take a deserved first place for comfort. The controls are generally quite good, with separate power and ANC buttons, but it can be tricky to distinguish the multi-function button from the volume buttons. Sony does offer a lot more extras though, especially with their companion app, for instance Sony's 360-degree audio feature and hands-free Alexa or Google Assistant integration. There's also adaptive sound control for automatic ANC adjustments based on your actions. Now the ANC here obviously doesn't compare with Sony's flagships, but it is still quite good, and especially so for the price. The low-end cancellation in particular is impressive. These just don't quite cancel out voices and crowd noise as much as Edifier. The transparency mode is great, and Sony gives you 20 different levels to choose from, plus remembers your last used mode when you power the headphones off. The mic here was also very natural sounding, and these are a good choice for phone calls. For specs we're looking at a 50-hour playtime, dropping down to 35 with ANC. These offer quick setup with fast pairing for both Android and Windows PC, Bluetooth 5.2 and the SBC and AAC codecs, so slightly surprising not to see Sony's LDAC here. We do have multi-point though, and it actually works really well with very fast swapping between devices. Now I've placed these in 4th for sound quality, and whilst this is still a step up in quality compared to the SonoFlow headphones, they're held back from ranking any higher due to the slightly bass-heavy sound signature. There's a warm tone with slightly recessed mids, but there is still good detail in the treble. I found a variation on the bright preset EQ helped address the balance, but there are custom options for you to fine-tune the sound to your own preference. One thing that stood out loud and clear was the volume. These are by far the loudest headphones in this video, so this is the choice for you loud volume bass heads. Despite these having the lowest clamping force, the sound leakage was actually the lowest too, so these are the best choice if you're trying to hide the fact that you're listening to Taylor's versions on repeat. The all-round performance is clearly very good, but the sound quality will of course be a major factor for people and depends on your listening preference. Still, you always have to compromise in this budget-friendly price category, and you might therefore want to prioritize factors like comfort, for which these are excellent. And finally, a pair of headphones released only last week, Soundcore's new Space One. To me, these are the best looking headphones so far, and rather than a generic minimal all-black design, they're actually trying something a bit different. The quality of the materials here is fantastic, the cushioning, the stitching, and even the plastic used. The headband offers a wide range of extension, including down to smaller sizes, so these should fit most head sizes. They're practical too, with a folding design that also rotates flat, and they come with a protective carrying bag, which clearly isn't the SonoFlow's premium case, but it's something. The headband is padded really well, the clamping force is absolutely fine, and these actually have the largest and most spacious ear cups of all, which I really enjoy. They could have taken the top spot for comfort if it weren't for the weight. They don't exactly feel heavy, but they can't compete with Sony's super lightweight design. They do take first place for the controls though, they're all in the right place at the back and utilise both ear cups so they aren't cramped together, and the multifunction button isn't jammed inside the volume rocker, so you don't have that issue to worry about. There's an aux port for passive playback with a cable, and these are the only headphones to offer wearing detection for auto pause and play. Another great control feature is Easy Chat, where you can temporarily lower your music volume and turn on transparency whilst you're holding the left ear cup, and then things immediately go back to as they were when you let go. You can also activate this with your voice, so Soundcore have copied Sony's quick attention and speak to chat features, and they work really well. It's a shame Sony felt they had to reserve this for their flagship headphones only. As for ANC, I'll cut right to the chase. It's not flagship level, but it's the best I've heard in this price range. Interestingly, the passive isolation isn't as good as either Edifier or Sony, but when you engage ANC, you can hear that these offer superior noise cancellation. You get the choice of either adaptive or setting a custom level, plus there's wind noise reduction too, which is very nice. You can also customize the transparency level, and despite having a faint hiss, it is once again the best and brings the clearest amplification of your surroundings. Soundcore clearly have the best mics and isolation tech because these also placed in first for phone calls. Now for the specs, you can tell that these are the newest headphones because they offer the latest Bluetooth 5.3, Google Fast Pair, multipoint, and a high-res codec. The multipoint didn't switch devices quite as quickly as Sony, however you can add the second device without interrupting your listening on the first, which was pleasantly surprising. We get a 55-hour battery, or 40 hours with ANC, and these were the only pair that offered a reliable auto power-off when you're not using the headphones. I've ranked these in third for sound quality, and I think most people will really enjoy what these have to offer. There is still a slight emphasis on the bass, but unlike One More and Sony, the treble is crisp and doesn't get lost. The balance and clarity doesn't quite match Edifier or Sennheiser, and bass-heavy songs will still sound the best with these. One potential downside is the sound leakage. It's not awful, but it was the worst from these 5. Soundcore offers the best range of sound customization though, with loads of preset and custom options, including their Hear ID feature which tailors an EQ to your specific hearing level. There's also Safe Volume, which lets you set a limit on the volume level so you never accidentally damage your hearing. You can see the decibel level of your music in real time, and this is a really neat feature that all headphones should offer. In a few ways, these are actually Soundcore's best headphones yet, and has some features their flagship model misses out on, and it makes for an extremely good value pair of headphones. For full disclosure though, the first pair of these I tested suffered from some major bugs, the second pair was fine. Soundcore have said that this only affected one small batch of headphones and the rest will be okay, so you should be fine, but since I didn't have problems with the other headphones I tested, I'd just feel a bit dishonest if I didn't share that with you.
Okay, let's do the mic test now, and I'll start with the Sennheiser 350BT, which I think ultimately are the poorest performer because they let in the most background noise. Remember, these don't have any ANC, so it's not really any surprise that these have the poorest mics. In fourth is One More's SonoFlow headphones, and immediately there is a big improvement in the voice isolation. That background noise is just so much quieter. It's just the clarity of the voice that isn't quite as good as our next headphones. In third place is Sony, and these actually let in more background noise than One More's headphones. However, the voice clarity was higher, and after many calls tested, this proved to be more important because it usually made calls more intelligible. In second place is Edifier, and these give extremely low background noise, but they also keep pretty good voice clarity as well, sort of like combining One More and Sony's performance into one. So these perform pretty well in noisy environments. And our winner is Soundcore Space One. They just edge Edifier in terms of the overall clarity. It was very close. Now interestingly, Edifier's older WH-20NB actually performed better than these for the mic quality. The Plus model are much better overall, and that's why they're in this video, but the older model were better for calls. Still, Soundcore take the #1 spot.
Alright, so let's summarise those results, firstly with this table so you can see how all of the major specs and features compare, and do pause at any point to take this in, but the highlight here is how Soundcore ticks the most boxes. Fast forward to the category rankings, and they've clearly scored the most first place finishes as well, and for me there's simply one clear overall winner. As I said at the start though, it all comes down to what you're looking for from a pair of headphones. You may put more emphasis on a specific category, and so there may be another pair that stands out to you. The Space One aren't completely flawless, but honestly, it was an easy decision to place these at number 1. With so many great features, so many high-ranking finishes in major categories, I've got to hand it to Soundcore, the value for money is fantastic. They're actually killing it across the board lately. They've got the best headphones under $100, the best earbuds under $100, and perhaps even the best speaker under $200. I've got videos covering all of that if you're interested. Obviously, I had to be a lot more brief with each pair of headphones than my usual in-depth approach to keep this video concise, so do leave any specific questions you may have in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Hopefully you still found this video helpful though, and if so, please give it a like because that really helps out. Also, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this, but make sure to hit the bell icon as well so that you actually get notified when new videos go live. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.